what does gutsy mean to you?
Gutsy means having conversations like this for the last 12 years, in a world that I know is very suspicious of all of this spirituality stuff. And Gutsy was going to BNI meetings, business networking, international meetings, and promoting shamanic healings in the Bible Belt of Texas. That's pretty gutsy.
Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast, the show where you learn how to own what you actually want and shift the mind junk that's been holding you back. I'm Laura Ora, keynote speaker, coach, and your guide to help you get clarity, build confidence, and make the gutsy moves that change your life. Each week, I'm going to help you simplify things by teaching you how to get out of your head while stepping into action. This way you can achieve all those life shifts that you've been overthinking. Your desire, that drives you. But gutsy, that's what gets it done. Your intuition is one of your most powerful and sacred tools, yet we're taught to go outside of ourselves to overrule it. In today's episode, we're talking with medicine woman Kerri Hummingbird about tapping into and learning to trust and use your intuition to unlock the next level of your life. Kerri is a medicine woman, mother, and mentor, and the founder of Inner Medicine Training, a mystery school that shares potent ancient traditions from the Andes and Himalayas for owning your wisdom and living your purpose. She's a 5-time international best-selling author and host of the Soul Nectar Show. Kerri inspires people to lead their lives wide awake with authenticity, passion, and purpose that positively impacts others. As a healer and mentor, she catalyzes mind shifts that transform life challenges into gifts of wisdom. Before we literally tap in with Kerri, whether it's a single or trio session, 6 weeks together, or a handful of months to make those inner shifts, I want to remind you of 2 things. 1, it is okay and necessary to ask for help. Having someone outside of your situation to help you see what you can't see, but you most certainly can feel, is a gift in its own. And 2, if you have been thinking about it, mulling over it, wondering, exploring, take this as your sign that you're more than ready. You don't have to have it all figured out to come work with me, okay? That's part of what we're going to do together. Sessions are live and available. You can book yours for whatever time works best for you. But for today, we're going into the depths. I'm telling you, the depths of intuition and energy. So buckle up, get a notepad, and expand your minds, my friend, because you're in for an amazing treat. Let's get started. Hello, Kerri. Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Laura Ora.
Absolutely. Look, we're both in energy space. So I was talking to Kerri a little bit before we started recording. I'm just naturally interested in this topic and the work that you do. So I'm a little biased, but I'm really excited about today's episode because I love the work that you do.
Me too. That's why I do it. It's fun.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing. So I know that this has been a journey. There's been a story to where you are now. So take us a little bit behind the scenes. What has led you to where you are today with us today?
Yeah. So where I am today is that I'm teaching inner medicine training. So I'm teaching people to connect in with their inner guidance and to evolve their consciousness into Homo Luminous. Because the opportunity right now on the planet is Homo Luminous. It's the rainbow body. It's the Buddhic Christ-like energy. It's embodying that, right? So that's really the journey that we're invited to at this time of the Great Awakening. And many of us have been preparing for this for lifetimes. So we've been having a succession of lifetimes to build the wisdom and the strength and the knowing, the skills to be able to transition at this time. And so in my own journey in this lifetime, I was coming off of a really painful lifetime on the Trail of Tears. So I was recovering from the devastation that befell my Cherokee people. And I was a leader in that community. I was a medicine person. So I felt very responsible for not being able to prevent that tragedy, not having the ability to help my people to overcome all the tragedy that they were experiencing or to prevent it, So coming into this life was really to heal my self-shame, my self-loathing, my self-judgment, And so I was coming into this lifetime to heal my heart, to heal myself of all the feelings I felt, the failure, the self-loathing, the grief, the tragedy, the loss, all of that I didn't have a chance to process embodied in the last lifetime. And so I was coming in to this lifetime to heal that. And also to, when we go all the way to the bottom of the frequency matrix on earth, we're able to cultivate deep, deep roots in ourselves. And the deepest place is shame. And so when we feel unworthy of the divine, when we feel unworthy of life, and we don't even want to be here, and that sort of suicidal ideation and those kinds of experiences resulting from that feeling, that is the deepest place we can go. And so that helps us when we can feel that and embody that and be with that feeling, we can actually go into the deepest roots. And the deep roots help us to grow the high, high branches, to reach enlightenment, to reach that high place within us. And so enlightenment requires embodiment. So we can't become enlightened without embodying, without fully embracing the full experience of being human. We can't embody, and become enlightened. So that was kind of the setup for this lifetime, was that extreme feeling of failure, and then coming into this lifetime, I was immediately thrust into conflict. My mom left my natural father. He was a very wounded individual and had childhood wounds of his own that set the course of his life. And he was very likely to be molesting me. And matter of fact, probably did early on. And then she left and went to a second marriage where there was just like a constant fear of violence, like a constant war. Like you never knew when the violence was going to strike. And so there was this vigilance that I formed, and which helped me to expand my intuitive senses, because I was trying to anticipate problems. I was trying to anticipate violence, right? So I was exercising these intuitive muscles to sense and feel impending danger, so I could prepare myself. And he was a very wounded person as well. And my mom and him had lots of altercations, and there's a lot of fear in my body as a young person. So, but that also, as many cases with young people, with children in those kind of environments, it actually helps us open up access to our higher self, to the light within, to, it like protects our innocence. Our innocence leaves our body to be protected until such time as we can reclaim it. And so we're often protected by the angels and the fairies and the guides. They sort of surround us in light as we're going through this dark part of our existence. It's forming our brain chemistry and forming our perception of life. And so, after that period, my mom married a wonderful man when I was 5, and he's still my dad, but he's passed beyond the veil, and he's on the other side since 2017. But that relationship helped to balance out my ideas of mother and father and relationship, and helped me to get a grip on my psychology that was formed early on, in that relationship. So, flash forward to 2012, I had married somebody and spent 20 years in a relationship with somebody who was not physically violent with me, but we had a similar poking, antagonistic, blame, shame game, like triangle of disempowerment matrix that probably I needed to work through because of my prior life and because of my early beginnings, right? So I needed to be able to navigate a treacherous relationship that also had tons of beauty and fun and love and joy in it too. So it wasn't just one-sided, but it was a training ground in how to not take things personally, how to be able to stay through a difficult conversation, how to be able to not judge, blame, and cast the other person as perpetrator, and how to own the responsibility that I had to live my own life, but not necessarily responsible for everybody else's choices. And I got a long way in that curriculum in the marriage, but then I had to leave in order to continue my growth path. In order to really step into personal responsibility, I had to kind of leave the dynamics that were happening in that relationship that weren't healthy. and I had to step out on my own journey. And when I did, I was instantly met with teachers and pathways. And it's like I started my feast on the shamanic buffet. And now I studied with amazing masters. I studied with Heather Ashimara, who was a student of Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements. She's a part of his family. She's a protege. I studied with Alberto Vialdo, who is a bridge to Andean shamanism and has been for like 30 years. And he's an amazing guide and teacher, the Four Winds Light Body School. I studied with their Power Path, Jose and Lena Stevens. So I studied with all these luminaries, these people who really have walked their talk, who have forged pathways to higher consciousness through earth-centered spirituality. And I've done it in the face of extreme antagonism, from our culture, from even sometimes from indigenous people, just like the backlash of white faces teaching things that brown people, have learned. And I have brown blood, but it's not showing, so, this is sort of the pathway that I've walked. And I would say that, at this time of the Great Awakening, it's really about owning our own medicine, standing in our own power and our own medicine, no matter what we look like and whoever's going to give us permission. We need to stand in the knowing of our own sacred yes and walk the path that we know we're being guided to walk. And I think that I've had so many challenges in my life because it's prepared me to be able to stand strong in my messages and to bring powerful gifts of connection, transcendence, higher dimensions right here, and, channeling that into the earth. And that's because my innocence was protected, so I've been able to reclaim that and able to lead people on shamanic journeys, that take them deeply into themselves and help them interact with allies like Otorongo Jaguar or Sachamama or Hummingbird or the ancient ones. I'm able to do that because I have this clear channel. And and I think that it's just a powerful journey. Many of us have been training with this, like I said, for lifetimes, collecting the bits of embodied wisdom that we would need at this time of the Great Awakening in order to flower, in order to blossom our higher consciousness.
Wow. What a incredible story and journey, and to see your art in practice, right? It sounds like from a very early age, you were learning how to trust yourself before you probably even knew what that was. And over time, that has just strengthened and grown, and you've added tools and knowledge and life experiences that have now opened you up into a path that you probably never even thought possible, right? Because it just opens up a whole new door, a whole new dimension, really.
Yeah, and this is a path. We must trust ourselves because it's not like the table or the chair. It's the invisible, but it's palpable. And the more that we can grow our trust and faith in our imagination is our soul language, is our soul reality. And when we can tap into that and trust it, we open doors of miracles, like literally amazing stuff happens. And that's life changing. That's not just like a journey somebody took in their mind and then that was it. No, it created like a whole life transformation for them. Like their life is demonstrating that healed them at a deep level. And it's not me doing it. So I want to say, I am a healer, but I really believe the role of healer is to be a sacred witness and to hold space to the depth and breadth of my ability to hold space for someone else's journey so that they can accept the depth and the breadth of themselves. And that's why as healers, those of us designed to be healers, we've got to go to the depths. We got to go to the branches, the highest branches, so that we can hold people where they're at, wherever they are at. And it's a big journey.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like you said, it's kind of like going through and picking up pieces. And before you know it, you have this wholeness that then you're able to hold for others as well. And, you mentioned something that I think rings really true is that trusting yourself is not a physically see, touch, scratch, feel type of thing. It's not an object. It's invisible. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because if I can't see, hear, feel, and touch it, then how do I know it's real? So talk to me a little bit about intuition and what it is and where it's coming from.
Well, what's funny is I just saw that movie If, It's a child movie and it's about imaginary friends. And oftentimes when we're children, we have imaginary friends and we know they're real and we talk to them, we see them, we hear them, we touch them, and they're real, you know? And then somehow we forget them or we're told that that's not real by an adult. And then we start to close our perception to that layer of reality. And in the movie, they're talking about how do we help adults open that back up again? Because you feel it in your heart. And I was talking with my mom after, and I remember this green fairy that was always my guide and my friend. And my mom said, "Oh, that wasn't the only one. You had like friends everywhere. Like you had constant friends, like all over the place you were talking to. I couldn't keep track of all of them." And I was like, "That's interesting." But I had forgotten about that, you know? And so, you know, we all have that. We all have that in our childhood innocence. We have that connection with spirit in the spirit world. And for my husband, it's ancestors. Like he saw great grandmother when he was a young boy. She had just passed away a little while before, and he saw her in full blue light just sitting in his room. And so we have these experiences sometimes that we can come in touch with those other dimensions of reality that are coexisting with this very dense physical reality. And we can remember that. And I think what they convey really beautifully in the movie is that it's in the heart. So it's like you just know it. It's not a touch, you know, necessarily, although I also sense it, like I sense presence through touch, through my feeling senses. That's how it comes up for me, as I'll feel the presence, or like I'll get body chills. Like when I call in Otorongo, I'll have often like body chills. And because I work with the Moonai Key is a transmission of these archetypal energies that puts a seed of those archetypes into your chakras so that you can directly interface with these archetypal energies inside your body, which makes it more real. So, for example, in the root chakra, we place Sachimama. Sachimama serpent helps you to release that old skin, you know, just like a snake sheds its skin, helps you let go. You know, a lot of us have problems letting go. I know I have had lots of issues letting go of stuff. So she helps us let go and transform. And Jaguar, Otorongo, is in the second chakra, seat of our intuition. We're talking about intuition. And so now that I've fully integrated Jaguar, a lot of times my body will just wiggle when it's happy. Like it'll just be like, yes, this is great. And Jaguar will just come in and go, yes. And so that helps me to know, like, that's a yes. My body is now my partner in my intuition. And it's no longer a mental guessing game. It's an embodied, yeah, my body is just like, oh yeah, this is great. And it's this Jaguar energy that's integrated. And it's not just in the body, because it's imagination, shows up in visions, also in real life. Like I've gone to the jungle, and I talk about this in the Inner Medicine book. I've gone to the jungle. I've worked with the shamans to integrate plant medicines. I've worked with ayahuasca. And every single time I've gone, and they said it started happening pretty much the year that I started going. I don't need to make a story about that, but that's kind of interesting, that this jaguar comes from across the jungle to be part of the ceremony. So it literally is on the grounds during the ceremony. Wow. Like an actual jaguar. And it's made itself known to me several times, like, and other people too. They heard it. It's like, they heard its like little purry growl thing. It actually spoke to me in my mind when I was open on ayahuasca, and I could hear what it was saying. We had a conversation, and then it would like, it literally walked right by us and then pounced over the fence. It was like, hi, I'm here.
Wow.
It's like, I mean, wow, like reality merging. And I've literally seen the shamans fade to black and come back again. And I swear I saw one turn into a jaguar and then come back out of the jaguar. So it's like, you know, reality is not what we think it is. That's the main thing I've learned in this path. Reality is not what we think it is. It's not fixed. It's a dream. And Don Miguel Ruiz talks about this in all of his books. Life is a dream. You have a personal dream, and then there's a planetary dream. There's a collective dream. So when you're in the dream that we're just realistic and wide awake, and there's the table and the chairs, and that's what there is. When you're in that dream, it shuts down the the more mystical aspects of your life that you could open up, which leads you to the realization that you're actually dreaming all the time. Like when you're asleep, you're dreaming. When you're awake, you're dreaming. And they're all part of the same dream. They're just happening at different levels, and different levels because of your personal willingness to realize that you're dreaming.
Hmm. Interesting. A lot of depth here. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I go
like
deep.
it's endless depth, which I think is really fascinating. And yet I also think that some of the listeners might be saying, okay, I like that's really fascinating, but how do I even start with that? Like how do I hear myself? How do I know if it's actual intuition or if I'm making stuff up? Like what are some first steps that you recommend for people that have trouble trusting themselves?
Well, okay, so I had a lot of trouble trusting myself and I was very suspicious. And that's why the fifth agreement is be skeptical. Don't believe everything. Definitely don't believe yourself. So the mind, I became aware that the mind gets in the way of truth. Like the mind has a lot of what the Toltec call mitote. It has a rock concert inside your mind with different aspects of you that don't agree. They have different perspectives, and they'll have even arguments back and forth about their perspectives inside your own mind. And it's like, we should do this, but I don't really want to because blah blah blah. But I really think we should. You have that going on in your minds, right? Like everybody. And if you
Absolutely.
don't, you're blessed. So, or you're just not listening to it. Anyway, so that's why a lot of people meditate, right? Is because they want to quiet the matote. They just get overwhelmed by it at some point and they just wish it would shut up. And I remember one time I had an ayahuasca journey where it actually did. Like I recognized that that voice was not me. So this is the first thing to recognize. Those voices are not you.
Hmm.
They're tapes, they're ancestors, they're aspects of, they're just agreements you made, they're stories you tell. It's like a Siri gone rogue inside your mind. It's just playing a whole bunch of stuff, but it's not you. You're the quiet presence within. And that's hard to realize that when the mitote is going on. But if you can start to realize that that's not you, that's just like you're an antenna and there's some radio waves coming through, right? But you're just witnessing it. It's not actually you. So start to detach from identification with the voice in your head. That's step one. And don't believe everything you think, which is part of that too, because it's not you. So don't believe it. It's just some kind of crazy thing happening inside your mind. So just don't believe it. And then you want to go to the body. So the body, especially when you're grounded. So when you ground the body with Mother Earth, when you get centered and grounded, like when you go in nature, you probably feel way better. Like if you spent the day hiking in nature, down by the river, or floating in the water, you would notice that you feel relieved. It's like, oh, okay, my sanity is restored. I feel better. So pay attention to that. Like spend time in nature, go outside, sit on the ground, get a lot of crystal friends, put them everywhere, and just take lots of baths in salt water or float in the water. I like to go float in the float tank. And so just get yourself grounded in your body. And then you can use a pendulum. So I have a pendulum, and the pendulum, when your body's grounded, then your body's connected with earth rotation, which rotates in clockwise. So earth rotation, it's clockwise. And when you're grounded and connected with earth, your body can pick up on earth rotation. And earth rotation is yes. So you're in alignment, heart coherence with the planet, then you'll get a yes. You'll get, maybe it won't be as big as this because I've got a really good grounding in myself now, but you will get a yes. And then you want to test what your no is. Mine is usually just hangs. So pendulums, and you want to get a pendulum that works for you. So get really grounded first and then go shopping and pick up a pendulum and say, are you my pendulum? And if it is, it'll do this. And sometimes if you place it over your hand, you'll get extra because your hand has energy. It'll help support the pendulum to move. But notice I'm not moving the pendulum. I'm simply placing it over my hand and asking, is it yes? So that's a really great tool to use the body.
And you're using the pendulum to ask questions to get clarity if for yes and no questions. Everybody that's listening that can't visually see, the pendulum is either swinging clockwise or counterclockwise, depending if it's a yes or a no answer.
And sometimes a no is just, it just hangs there and does nothing.
Okay.
So the thing with using a pendulum is that your mind can still get in the way.
I was going to ask you. Because I've heard if you're thinking you want a yes, you can get it to go that direction, or vice versa. If you're thinking you want a no, you can also do that. So you can kind of manipulate it.
You can. That's why the mind is very tricky. So what I started doing was running tests on things. And so I would practice, like I would write down 5 different things, like on a little strip of paper, write down one option, fold it all up to where you can't see it. Then 5, every option, the exact same size, folded exactly the same way, and then just kind of toss them and then check the pendulum over each one. Because then I don't know which one's which from my mind, right? But my body knows. Like my body doesn't need to see the writing to know which one's correct. It can tell the frequency.
Right.
So then I would just put those 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 options and then just go over each one. Is this one true? Is this one true? And just test them to see which one's true. And in order to do that too, it was kind of like let go of attachment. And that's a key piece with using any kind of intuition form whatsoever, whether it's a pendulum or whether it's just asking yourself or whatever, is that you have to let go of attachment to the outcome. So assume that you don't know the answer. Assume that you don't know, and you are consulting universal intelligence to find out something more true than what you're able to access from your mind. And if you do that, you can get into the frequency of curiosity, and then you're open. You're open for the answer. And you might not like the answer.
One of my favorite stories from a one-on-one session with a client is she called me one day and she's like, look, here's what's going on. I've been stuck. I've been beating my head. This is draining me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the problem is. Okay. You can even feel the buildup of that energy happening. And within one single session, we were able to identify the root, to get a game plan. And then she was like, okay, I got to go because I'm going to do it now. And that week, she was able to overcome that obstacle. Look, a lot of the hesitation, the worry, the resistance that you're experiencing is because you're fighting yourself. We're talking today about your higher self. Listen, your higher self already knows the answer. It's your physical body here on this planet that's trying to stop you. This is why I love one-on-one coaching so much, because we can get a lot of clarity and a lot of movement in a short period of time. So if you are ready to step into the next level of your life, get some clarity and know how to move forward, book your session at lauraora.com/coaching. Well, that's the truth. Again, that's where the mind gets in the way. And we want to predict what's right or wrong, or we want to choose what we want versus what we don't want. And that space of curiosity, it's a very open space, right? For information to come to you and for you to explore things. We have to be okay with what the journey is. It's why we don't know the answers, right? Because I mean, if everyone knew everything, do you think that people would actually move forward with a lot of stuff, or they would stay where they're at?
Well, I mean, part of why they call it a mystery is because it's the mystery, because we all came here to experience what it would be like to forget ourselves and then find our way home. I mean, that's part of the discovering about ourselves by forgetting about ourselves so that we can then move through a series of experiences to help us remember ourselves. It's just part of the fun of it. And it doesn't feel fun sometimes, I admit it, but that's part of the journey too. Because then when you climb the mountain, and it's a lot of exertion to climb the mountain, it's hard to climb a big mountain. Your body starts to ache, you get thirsty, you get sweaty, you're hot, you wish it would be over. And that's all part of the journey. And then when you get to the top, you see the view and it's like, oh, wow, it's so worth it. It's like that feeling of accomplishment, release, relief, and joy, and that you've embodied all that in order to get to the top of the mountain is fantastic.
Right.
I would say also, like, be around other people in community who have a better access of their intuition, because you're going to be in whatever collective consciousness you place yourself in is going to help you open up to embody that level of consciousness. So if you only ever surround yourself with people who say, that's the table, that's the chair, that's the blah, 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 period, it's going to be really hard for you to open up for yourself access to, oh my gosh, they're imaginary friends and they're real. Or, oh my gosh, that journey I just had in my imagination was real. Because the sort of like the layer of doubt and confusion is such a thick block to you opening anything new, that you would have to have some kind of ecstatic experience to lift you out of that stuckness in order to get a clear intuitive hit. So it's better if you spend time with people. You might have to change friends for a while, but just spend time with people who are already able to access their intuition very well, and hang out in those communities.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I mean, because the people that you're around make a huge impact on you, your energy, what you do, what you don't do. It's a big one for sure. What about in situations where maybe people don't have any tools at their disposal, right? Maybe they don't have a pendulum with them. Maybe they can't stop to meditate, like maybe they're in a situation where they really need to just tap in and know the answer within themselves. Are there any cues, or how can you identify what is your intuition versus your ego or your mind?
Well, see, there's really no way around getting still and quiet with yourself and creating space to explore your intuition. So I know that we live in a culture that has like 30-second TikToks, and we're supposed to learn everything there is about a subject from 30 seconds. But we're not really doing ourselves a service if we don't let ourselves drop in for longer periods of time. When I go float, I float for 2.5 hours in a sensory deprivation tank. I just lie there for 2.5 hours and just no sound, no light, just quiet stillness.
Wow. When you say drop in, could you explain what dropping in is? Because that might be a new concept to somebody listening.
Yeah. So a lot of times our focus is external. So we're looking to the outside for answers or clues. And that is a game we can play with spirit, and it can be super fun. But when I say drop in, I mean, you've got to at some point come fully inside yourself, shut out the noise outside, and just come inside you and just be with yourself. And you might find some really uncomfortable things in there if you haven't spent a lot of time in there with yourself. You might avoid it because it feels uncomfortable. But pushing through that discomfort and getting to know how you actually feel in your body is absolutely vital to awakening your consciousness, and definitely to having your intuition open up, which is a first step towards awakening your consciousness. So you can't really skip that. It's not skippable. And if you're taking a lot of medication, I understand, to not feel anything. I did that for 13 years. You're also not really doing yourself a service necessarily, because if you can't feel what you're feeling, then you're not present with yourself. And the feelings are still happening. This is what I learned on my journey with the not feeling pills, is that the feelings were still happening. It's just that my body had no way to release it because I was cutting myself off from it. And so I actually ended up with like a grapefruit sized cyst on my right ovary, which they had to cut out. And I had to have surgery to have it removed. And I also lost my ovary. So it can be a really serious thing, because I was stuffing my feelings, not feeling them, and taking the pills to not feel things, plus drinking a ton of wine and a lot other behaviors to distract from feeling my feelings, that it led to a physical consequence in my body, because the body needs us to be present with it in order to process those things. It's not just going to do it for us. We have to be present with our bodies to release emotion and to process our life experiences.
So what I'm hearing you say is that a huge part of trusting yourself, which then leads to an awakening, which I want to come back to what that is in just a second. But a huge part of that is being with yourself and feeling all aspects of yourself, the good, the challenging, and everything in between. To really heighten your ability to listen and trust yourself, you must face yourself. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, it's kind of like if you had a friend that you hadn't talked to in 12 years, and then you went and asked them for a favor, they would probably be like, F you. Well, your body is that same friend. It's like, dude, you've been ignoring me for 12 years. Like, I have been dealing with all this pain in my life, and you haven't been present with me. So
Right.
it's just like any other relationship. If we want to have a healthy relationship with our bodies, then we have to communicate and be present with our bodies. And and if we want to have a healthy relationship with our consciousness overall, then we've got to have a relationship with the aspects of our consciousness. And I guarantee you, inner children, everybody's got an inner child that's feeling really ignored and abandoned unless you're actually spending the time to connect with your inner child and be with that part of yourself and become that inner child's protector and best friend. And once you become your inner child's protector and best friend and you're listening to your body and you're following its guidance, you loosen up the control mechanism of the egoic personality, which is only here to protect you until you can take the wheel.
Hmm.
But it's not going to let you take the wheel if you're demonstrating you're not responsible.
Wow. I've never heard it put that way. That's pretty profound.
It's a built-in protection mechanism, to keep you from going way off the edge.
Wow. Yeah, that's something to chew on, everybody. I mean
Yeah.
that's really, I mean, it makes a lot of sense though. It really does. And it would explain then why, as you form this relationship with your body, the intuition gets clearer, louder, more evident, easier to tap into. It's because that your body trusts you again, and you're able to take the wheel because it knows, like, okay, you have demonstrated that you can handle the wheel.
Yeah, and it's when your body's giving you signs and you're not slowing down to listen to those things and find remedies or solutions or drop in and even hear what the message is, then you start to get blocks on the outside of your life too. Like doors start to close or things get super challenging or you get wake up calls of one kind or another because you're not listening.
Wow. What does you said your body gives you cues? What are some that either you have experienced or maybe some of your clients have experienced? What are some of those cues so people can start to kind of look out for those things?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I've recently been in a really uncomfortable situation for the last 4 months, taking me deeper into my own journey of healing. And I've had like in my will center, I've had like these urging feelings or like aching, like constriction or like just hurting and pulsing energy. And and it's really anxiety. It's anxiety, it's worry, it's fear. And so my body's telling me, and it's in my self chakra, right? So it's like I'm having this fear about this next level I'm going to. Like a lot of really big things are opening up in my life right now, taking me to the next level of visibility. And part of me is like, I don't want to be that, visible. Part of me is scared to be that visible, all those attention points on me. And, I've been in a nice, safe bubble with other people who are enlightened and who are ready to wake up and want to wake up, like the people on your podcast, right? Like I've been surrounded by people who want to know this information and believe it and are embracing it. But the next level I'm going to really soon might open up some troll energy, might open up some energy from people who are hateful or don't like it or disagree and so that part of my body and my solar plexus is like, I don't want attention from all those people, like that scares me. I don't like that. And I don't want to be attacked. And so I'm actually doing healing work right now with myself later on today to just, shore up the next level of boundaries and any place that I've agreed with being attacked and things like that so that I don't have to carry that story with me anymore and I can just step forward with grace. Those are the kinds of things that partnership with my body. My body's telling me you need to do work on your self chakra, so yeah, things like that. And then the outer world will show us too. I mean, the outer world reflects to us what's happening too.
Yeah. So how do you decipher, rather, when you're feeling that kind of nodding, the tension, the pulling, how do you know that is something that wants to be healed and released because it's a yes versus feeling a pulling or tension because it's a no?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Basically, blocks are no, right? Like blocks are a no. And so what I'll do is I'll get really good with the questions. Like I've asked many times, does it make sense for me to take this next level? Like is this my highest destiny path? And the answer is yes. Every time, yes. So it's never a no. It's always a yes. So with that knowing, then when I have this pain in my self chakra, I already know it's a yes to do what I'm about to do. So then I know, okay, this pain is happening because some part of me is, we have a matote inside. Most of me is saying yes, and the higher aspect of me is saying yes, which is the one I'm going to follow. But there's also parts of me that are scared. And so I'm not going to leave them behind or throw them under the bus. I'm going to pay attention to what they're telling me because it's my community. It's my community of me. It's like all the aspects of me, my body. My body might be saying, you need better health habits because I'm already overworked, like overtaxed with what we're doing. I need you to slow down. I need you to prove that you're going to take better care. Right? Because this next level is going to take me to even more right responsibility or more attention points or more energy or deepening my capacity. Body's like, hey, how are you going to support me through that? Right. So it's kind of like you've got to be able to pull things apart. I think a lot of times when people are faced with adversity, they think that means, oh, this isn't my path, turn around. That's not what it means. I guarantee you it's not. What it is what do you need to work on inside of yourself that would open up access to what your heart has already told you is your path? Mm. What do you need to work through? What muscle, like going to the gym, what muscle do you need to work out today that would support you in becoming the person your heart says you're here to be? That's the muscle. You don't, you can't have a really fit body without working out, right?
Right.
So you have to do the work. And the work doesn't have to be like really heavy and dry and boring. It can be fun. It can be playful, but it's all how you choose, how we each choose to look at it. So when we reframe it as, oh, this is going to help me have more integrity. It's going to help me be stronger. Okay. It's going to deepen my capacity to hold space. It's going to expand my ability to reach more people. All right. Well, then that's my why. And then I can lean into that work, that discomfort, that adversity with a bigger why that helps me move through the challenge because I know why it's there. I know what it's for.
I love that because I think our natural instinct is just to fight ourselves, right? You push back or you're physically feeling bad. Like I'll use my own example. I've been going through some health challenges for the last many years, and I find that I've been so angry at my body, right? Why are you doing this? What's wrong with you? The way I talk about my body, right? Like it's broken, it's screwed up, there's something wrong. And it's like when I think about the next level of where I'm headed, where I know that like the space is already there for me, I find myself getting angry sometimes and frustrated, like, what the hell am I doing wrong? Right? Like what's not happening? And then I think this body is not going to carry me into that with me talking to it like that. Right. I am just pouring fuel onto this fire by treating my body in such a way. And so literally just recently in the last couple of weeks, I've been talking to my body more, right? I'm very intuitive. I'm very in touch with my intuition and all that stuff, but I've never really like talked to my body. And I'm finding that some of this stuff is starting like that really tight knit stuff, that weave is starting to loosen up a little bit. And I'm like, holy shit. I've been talking nasty to myself and my body's like, I mean, we can go there, but not with that attitude. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the feeling that I get from it. And it's just interesting that, the other night I was feeling a little bit funky and I'm like, okay, I can either sit on this couch and make this way worse, or I can do what my body is interested in right now. And okay, body, what do you need right now? I want to move. How do you want to move? I want to dance. It's like, okay. So I put in my AirPods. I put on some music And I literally went outside and I just started dancing. However my body wanted to move. I felt so good after that, right? Like our bodies are such an incredible tool, right? It's what carries us physically through this life. And when we start to honor it and listen to it, even through challenges, it will work with us if we stop fighting it.
Yeah. And, I want to add to that, that we are made of earth, right? Because we're on this planet, we're formed from earth, the earth, the water, the fire, the air, all the things inside the auric field of Mother Earth were created from. So, in other words, we're created from Mother Earth. And so, in other words, Mother Earth is our body.
Hmm.
And so, our teacher, therefore, is Mother Earth. And so, she's not going to let us escape our lesson. We came here to learn in our curriculum. And she's inside of us, knowing everything we think and how we react to everything. She witnesses all of it. So there's not really like, this is the teacher that stays with you 24/7. So she knows how you're talking to yourself. She knows what you're thinking about yourself. She knows how you're processing logically things in your reality. She knows if you're listening to yourself, your body, or not. And she's giving you messages all the time. So, I mean, it's miraculous, really, to realize that and realize that we're never alone. Like, we've never been alone. Like, we're the furthest thing from alone because we're surrounded. We are basically immersed in Mother Earth bodies.
Hmm. Is that where the intuition is coming from?
I believe so. I think it's our soul. Our soul is here merging with Earth to have an experience of being human. And Earth is our teacher in Earth School. And so we're learning from this like avatar, right? The teacher's embedded inside the avatar. So when we're fighting, we're really fighting Mother Earth. We're like, no, we don't agree. Or no, I don't want that lesson. Or, it's like having your mother with you all the time, which could be why we treat our mothers so badly so often, because they're like reminding us of how much we don't like not having the freedom to do what we want, and we do have the freedom. And I actually had this journey the other night, and I had this journey that really opened me up to this really clear conversation with Mother Earth that I've never been this clear before. And it's like she just plopped me out onto this open space. And she just said, well, Kerri, what does Kerri choose? Oh, wow, you're asking me what I choose. Wow. I choose peace. I choose love. I choose joy. I choose prosperity. And so if those are the things I choose, then I get to align my actions and my thoughts and my words to what I choose. And then I will be in harmony with myself. So I wanted to clarify, like, that's kind of what she's teaching us, right? Is to be congruent with what we say we choose.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. One of my final questions I want to ask is if you can help us wrap our heads around the concept of the higher self and the ascension. You talked about like tapping into our higher selves and opening things up and moving to new levels. Talk to me a little bit about what that is and what that means.
Well, I mean, I've met medicine people in the mountains, the Andes Mountains, the Carol people, several of which have attained the rainbow body. And you can see it. It's like a bubble of rainbow light all around their bodies. And it's because they have embodied unconditional love. They have aligned themselves with the choice of love completely, 100%. And so they show up unconditionally with love no matter what happens. And that is what our potential is. And that when we do that, we activate a alchemical transformation of our DNA in our bodies, and also our brain chemistry shifts to a permanent reconfiguration of Homo luminous. That's the opportunity right now. It's kind of like lightning. And when it happens, it's a switch that flips. And many people, enlightened people throughout the ages have talked about this. It's like all of a sudden it just happened and there's no going back. Like once you're there, bam, you're just like there. But on the way there, it's like back and forth and back and forth and back. This way, that way, over here. It's kind of like, how do we get there? But once you're there, it's like this, your whole perspective changes. And so there isn't any going back because you're completely new. Like you're just operating in a totally different paradigm inside your body and your mind. And that's what we are unlocking in the age of Aquarius here. The Great Awakening is we're unlocking that divine human. I mean, I guess that's what I was talking about before, is that the soul finally manages to make peace with its intentions in the body, practices that through mastery. And then at some point, there's just nothing else standing in the way of full embodiment. And when the full embodiment happens, then that's when the DNA alchemically changes and the brain changes, and you're just divine human, period, homo luminous, rainbow body. And you're just permanently that way.
I mean, that sounds fantastic.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it sounds like an incredible state. And is that part of the higher self? I mean, is that the highest of self?
It's kind of like the highest self is unconditional love. So when you can embody unconditional love, then you're embodying the highest form of self, which is unconditional love.
Got it.
And I know that there's this other, that's not necessarily what the matrix says of power versus force, has some other levels above unconditional love. But that's the opportunity in the fifth dimension.
Wow.
The fifth dimension is a love dimension. So that's what we're doing here.
Okay. You have opened my eyes in a whole new level.
I learned from the things I say too. I just go, really?
It's fascinating. And everybody is on a journey of their own. Mm-hmm. And this is, no matter if all of this resonated with you or you're just getting started and now you're kind of opened up to a whole new realm and some new information, like just know that everybody's in a different part of their journey and learning different aspects of themselves and tapping into new depths as they go. So I would love to make sure that everyone knows where they can get in touch with you. And, if there's anything that you'd like to offer our listeners today.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to say one thing before I wrap, is that Dominic Ruiz in The Mastery of Love, he says, don't believe me, don't believe you, and don't believe anyone else. And so really, like, take it with a grain of salt, take what's true, toss the rest, and follow your own guidance. Like we're no longer doing the age of the guru. The guru thing is dead. So you're your own guru. Everybody is your own guru. And so you have to follow what feels right to you in your own heart. If what I said touched you and sparked your remembrance, like, oh yeah, that's totally true. Cool. Keep it as your own, and if it didn't, that's okay too. Toss it. Yeah. So you can find me at kerrihummingbird.com, KERRI, hummingbird.com. And if you'd like, I have a pack of meditations that are free, inner medicine meditations, and you can get them at kerrihummingbird.com/inner medicine.
Amazing. We'll make sure that we link that in the show notes. And Kerri, I would love to know, what does gutsy mean to you?
Gutsy means having conversations like this for the last 12 years, in a world that I know is very suspicious of all of this spirituality stuff. And gutsy was going to BNI meetings, business networking, international meetings, and promoting shamanic healings in the Bible Belt of Texas. That's pretty gutsy.
I started my business through a BNI as well. So that's what an interesting full circle moment there.
Yeah, it was really fun. I was like, oh, you guys think I'm totally loopy right now, but I'm just going to be your president of the chapter, and you have to listen to me every single week.
I love it. Kerri, thank you so much for your wisdom and your knowledge and sharing your gifts, because we need people like you, right? We need the lights. We need, it's just illuminating a path that a lot of people have forgotten about. So thanks for reminding us.
Absolutely.
Your intuition, all of these energies, gosh, they are so at your fingertips the whole name of the game here is to allow. And you know what? I'm super excited because I have the opportunity to be on Kerri's podcast, which is called the Soul Nectar Show. So make sure you check the show notes. As soon as her episode goes live on her show, we'll be sure to link it on ours as well. I'd love for you to connect with me on your social platform of choice. You can find me using @thatlauraora. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.